The game, the first three chapters of Raft is probably my favorite simply because when I initially started playing Raft, I played it for the relaxing aspect of it instead of the okay, we gotta actually save the war aspect of it. Because this ending just kind of like leaves a cliffhanger for another game, and that's fine, I guess. But you could have, they could have really extended it, you know, to like me personally. My preferred ending would have been the everybody, you just sawing off to the end of the world with your Raft, not just talking to these Simpson looking like creatures that you have no relation to. You got Diddle here, reminds you of a Simpson character. It's just, they don't tell you. Like, it would have been cool to see their experience. Here. It would have been cool to see their experience of, like, what happened to them, than just, like, saying, oh yeah, Olaf captured us and you saved us, and then that's it, slap on the wrist. There's nothing concrete. You have all these amazingly, nah, I ain't gonna say amazingly. You have these buildings here that could, you know, give you an endless sea of imagination, and then it just doesn't really get used. You got these complicated puzzles that don't really make you feel like you learn anything or make you feel like you progress in the story. Um, Kind of like in the first three chapters of the game, and I may have mentioned this, and you'll see it whenever I upload it. But basically, the first three chapters of the game is like, okay, the world flooded, and now you have to figure out why. Okay, and so while you're like floating around in the ocean trying to answer the simple question of what did we do to get here, you're like discovering like places and hold on, I'm at turning. That's fine. Oh, it's this part right here. I need to break this. I need an axe. Broken wood. One sec. It's just like, you don't get much reward from it. And that's like the irony part about this. You just don't, the game doesn't really reward you for your efforts. You go to Utopia. One second. Let me turn the engines forward. Oop, come on, button. Let me get the biofuel out. Since we beat it. Trying to figure out what's effing up here. That's on. Oh I'm on. It's just something got added to the boat, and that's why it's like running so poorly. Um, golly, I don't know what. Here, let's cut this part out. There's something that's not on. Hold on. These are on. There we go. I'm like, what the flip is going on here? Oh boy. Nope, 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 nope. Um, one sec. Whatever. Now you get to the circuit quick. Okay. We're just gonna go off into. We're not gonna go off in this direction. We're gonna go to the moon over there, or like a little like a satellite actually, and just ran about the game until we run out of fuel. Okay. This game, its initial experience was worth it for the first 3 chapters. After the first 3 chapters, it just became like half a Raft and half of a different game that isn't Raft, and so um, you know, I was kind of excited to finally come back to the game after be learning it, and it's just a big disappointment. It's okay. Like I said, the first 3 chapters, you have a story that's you're trying to figure out what's going on, why is it happening, and then chapter 4, which is the caravan. Oh, let me pull these up. So Radio Tower is chapter 1. Vazagetian, chapter 2. Baba Eye, which is the bear eye, that's chapter 3. That's why I stopped playing. Caribbean Town was chapter 4. No, these two are chapter 4. Tangaroo was okay. Vanilla Point story started turning sideways because it started focusing on some kid that you never met before who's a scientific genius. I think that's what happened. The narrative shifted. So, like I said, you go from a story of just trying to figure out how this happened in chapter 3, and then you start hearing stories of this smart ass kid in Caribbean Town who's making new stuff that we probably had at one point in time before the flood, and then it just shifts its focus entirely onto him. Like it stays on him too throughout the entire game till you save the utopian people that you do not care about, nor do you know about who they are, who the origin is, what they did before they got there. Was this a little city? Like, was this a massive metropolitan area before it became flooded, or was this like some you know people who just like pull stuff together and it's like, okay, we're gonna make this into a city, but yeah, it's just disappointing, really. Like, I was excited, you know. They had like all this time to develop different chapters. Like if it was me, I would have told the story in the sense where, um, you know, a volcano, uh, or no, does it in this dimension of time it happens every 200,000 years, and we just happen to experience at this particular moment, and then it just goes away in the next 10 years, and so, or 10 and 50 years, like in a couple of generations, you just won't see the tell the story, you know. But your kids and their kids will see the story, and that would have made it more of a bit of a closure, and then two, I would also had made all those characters that you see as passerbyers, like the little rafts that you see floating in the distance, and you happen to stop and talk to him for a while, and you get to know a little lore in the game that will actually create a narrative that was still structured around the initial narrative. But no, it took this turn that it just changed the story. And then two, my biggest threat in this game is that the gameplay. I initially played this game in 2020 because of its relaxing perspective. You know, you're on a raft in a sandbox world, drifting from place to place, with very beautiful music in the background, very beautiful cartoonish graphic in the background. You can practically go to sleep with the music on in the background. You enjoy yourself. And I really just play the game for the experience of just enjoying myself. Well, I didn't have to sweat. I didn't have to focus on parkour or nothing. I could just play around and enjoy the scenes. Sure, the permadeath system, not well, it's not necessarily permadeath, but it's partially permadeath. It is kind of harsh, truth be told, but it's not harsh enough where you're just like, okay, you hate the game for what it is. No, no, it's harsh enough where you know you can get far, and it's just, it has some nice aspects, but the titanium sword, especially now, you don't have a purpose. You know, it's like it's changed into like a whole different game than what it was originally intended for. Like the whole boss fights is not what the game was intended for. Okay, fighting the little rats, the rat creatures in the cruise ship. That was like okay. You fight the bears, okay. That seems like part of the game. Fighting bosses though that have nothing to do with the game, it's just goofy. It's really goofy. And it's such a frustrating experience too, because you're like trying to do all of this and enjoy yourself, and it went from a relaxed video game to something just really, really grindy. And it's really sad to see that they switched the narrative so quickly. Like goodness gracious, like dude, I don't give a flip about coins, okay? A vending machine that somehow works in a dystopian state, ain't no way. It's just, and the current rating for this game after beating it finally is a 7 out of 10. And I don't like video games that changes its scope and shape because of other video games, because that's what it reminded me of, is other video games. To go buy my taco. It's just that rather than its unique self and being itself, they took a turn. You could tell they didn't care about it because the story at the end of Utopia, you know, it just didn't matter to them. Like the actors, not the actors, but the characters you see in the game. Before I stop at that little island, the characters you see in the game at the end, they don't tell you much what's going on. They just tell you Ulo. Okay, but they don't. None of the story is based on how Ulo got there, why he became like he did. You know, was he one of the last remaining survivors that quote unquote destroyed the world, or was he just one of those people who tried to help but became like a mad scientist that's lost his mind in the process? That would be interesting. And then you could have built off of that lore specifically. And if you really wanted to, you could build DLCs based off that lore and make it interesting how each character ended up there, and it will complete the circle of the game, how everything came to be. But nope. Nope, you took the lazy route. You took the route that nobody cares about. The route that is really easy to do, but requires little to no effort. It's just tasteless. I can make a better video game, and I don't even code, and so we are going to conclude our story here on this little island. As to me, this ending would have been more fitting with credits. I add you with credits. You know, of you just going off into the sun horizon. They could have done the flipping Assassin's Creed 4 character. You just sail off into. Then you sail into England from the Caribbean. But still, just add like a nice little touch. You know, nice little touch. This is my ship. Looks like a plane with wings. But yeah, I conclude this journey. You know, it was different 4 years ago, and it's completely different now. Maybe the developers would do something. I don't know if they're gonna make another game. Personally, I would prefer them don't make another game because the ending is so shifty. Like if you wanted ideas from the player base, they'll be more than happy to create like a lore system where the game was just interesting. Like Fallout. Fallout became interesting in the recent years, simply because of how much lore was in the game that just kept players coming back. You know, but alas, each game has its uniqueness. This game had a uniqueness, but now it doesn't, and so it's just another dead game. I beat it finally, but definitely a dead game.